Hey guys, Eric and Joshua here for the second trailer, long-awaited second trailer to X-Men Days of Future Past. Picking up the slack because Amazing Spider-Man 2's had like 40 trailers already. And what's going on here, Joshua? What are we seeing?
This looks like the post-apocalyptic future that the X-Men, for the first three X-Men movies, are living in. Looks a lot like the Terminator movies or Matrix Revolutions to me. And we're seeing the cuts from the young versions of the characters to the old characters. So general audiences, not us, not super nerds, will know who is who. Like Michael Fassbender's, Ian McKellen's Magneto.
Like when I came out of first class with my mom and had to explain to her that those were the same characters she'd seen in other movies played by older actors. This is a nice visual help here. But we're going to go right into a pretty big, important shot here, I'd say. I mean, first off, okay, very cool. This is the future Sentinel, which we hadn't seen in any sort of film footage. We've seen some photos of. The first time we're seeing the future Sentinel. Definitely a lot of Nimrod influence, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely.
Some people are criticizing the fact that it's more human-sized, maybe slightly larger than human-sized, but that was kind of Nimrod, too, in the comics.
Yeah, and his, thing in the comics was that you'd blow him up and he'd come right back together. And these seem to be very, malleable like that. They're not like a rigid robot design. They seem to be lots of transforming parts and stuff.
Yeah, they've said that they can shift and kind of get through smaller spaces.
Yeah. So here we go. We have... This looks like the death of Storm. Do you think they'd show that in the trailer?
I think they might, only because, look, in the comic book Days of Future Past, it was parallel stories as they went to the past, but they also showed what was happening in this horrible future, and it involved a lot of beloved characters getting killed one by one. I believe even Storm. Yeah, Storm got killed in the comic book.
And there's Bishop. There in the back. I guess he didn't like the Halle Berry casting either.
I don't know. Maybe he's gonna leap forward any second, I'm thinking. But if she does die, it could be undone by the end of the movie.
Right. It's a time travel story. Anything could happen.
And they're trying to fix things, so we'll see there what happens next. Logos, corporate logos. Right off the bat, though, we go almost immediately into hordes of Sentinels. Just a whole lot of future Sentinels that they've taken over the planet in the future. Here we get, kind of their version of the Avengers team shot.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But this is a lot of the new characters, Colossus aside. You got a glimpse at Blink back there, a glimpse at Warpath to his left, and then right after here, we've got Sunspot. And it's the first time we've seen Sunspot in the other trailer and photos. First time we're seeing kind of his powers power on.
Yeah, in the comics he doesn't light up quite like this. He's sort of doing the Human Torch thing, but it looks pretty cool.
I mean, I honestly think this is one of the things where they have to make a decision based on what looks better in a movie, because in the comics he basically is all charcoal black with little pieces of flame, and they kind of went for the opposite here because, hey, it looks cooler. And yeah, much more of this sort of
looks like a new Blackbird.
A nice big Blackbird there. So at least they have a nice plane.
It's like the future is in disrepair, but they have this awesome, sweet new jet.
right. They're keeping it around. Magneto can still put some stuff together, one would hope. So here's an interesting moment. Again, if you know the comic books, in the comic books is, of course, Kitty Pryde, who gets sent back in time, not Wolverine. And they've changed it up here. But that is Kitty Pryde right there with Wolverine. I don't know what she's doing, though, exactly.
I guess, she can phase through things, so maybe she's phasing him through time. Let's just go with it.
Yeah, I do think that they do sort of tweak her powers. I think they wanted to have a nod to the comic books and have her be important to the time travel story. By the way, there is a nice thing here where it's even framed like the comic books, except in the comic books, Kitty was laying there, and Rachel Summers was the one sitting behind with her hands to the temples. So they're definitely, they're acknowledging the source material, even as they do their own thing. It's kind of cool here, the effect, only because it's very reminiscent of the Cerebro thing we've seen through the whole series, and kind of going through the idea that this is a time travel through the mind, not physical. Reminding you that Bryan Singer directed the first two X-Men movies we all liked.
So this is Xavier walking around.
Yeah.
And then if you keep going.
So here he is, it's Charlie, walking the halls. And then
here he is in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Because at the end of First Class, if you remember,
right,
he got shot, and thus he was paralyzed. He wound up in his famous wheelchair. But now, throughout this trailer, he just seems to be in it and out of it. So I'm not really sure.
Right. They're
What's
obviously
your theory on that one?
They're not forgetting that he was in a wheelchair, but I'm not clear. Like, it's something. How can he walk for some of it, but not all of it? Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good theory on that one. He gets better temporarily. I don't know. He's being propped up by Magneto's powers.
Yeah. This looks awesome. Here's my... First of all, I love the look on Quicksilver's face. So he's like giving them side eye.
Right.
But it looks like they're breaking out Magneto. Magneto seems to be in this like prison jumper. And if you look in the back, when I saw this, I thought, oh, Magneto's used his powers to wrap metal around this guy. But as I'm looking at it, it looks like duct tape.
Yep.
And I feel like Quicksilver, wondering what's on his belt. I bet he has a roll of duct tape on it, and he uses super speed to just tape this poor soldier, this poor guard, like to the wall.
Yeah, Quicksilver we know is basically only in a small portion of the movie. He's used to help break Magneto out. With Xavier kind of recruits him. Controversial costume there.
I'm into it.
I think the Pink Floyd shirt is strong.
Quicksilver is everything.
Okay, this is kind of cool here too, because as you were just discussing beforehand. In the end of the first movie, Magneto had his helmet. He had his iconic helmet.
Yeah, it's no longer the pink the red and purple one, by the way. They seem to have redesigned it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is, I think you told me earlier that this was like a room with a bunch of artifacts from the first movie that the government had sort of confiscated. Now that Magneto's being broken out, he's sort of collecting his effects.
We assume the government, we don't know, but it was kind of macabre because it was the female angel's wings were in there.
Oh, really?
And Havoc's harness was in there.
Interesting, okay.
So yeah, Magneto, it sounds like he begins the movie imprisoned, they free him, and then he goes to get his trusty helmet. Mm-hmm. Whoever is taking it, probably the government. It's always the government. So here we've got this establishing shot of some barracks, which, again, Bryan Singer tweeted so many photos from the movie, including the one we just talked about. He also tweeted one of Havoc sitting in these barracks in an army uniform. So something brings Mystique to this army base where Havoc is. You had a funny observation, of course, about we're not quite sure why.
Well, I see she would definitely want to be a soldier, but as a dude. But why would she turn it back into herself?
Why would she just change it to a female soldier?
Yeah.
And I said any excuse to see more Jennifer Lawrence, I will accept. Definitely a little pickup of the Magneto Mystique something from not only First Class but the original trilogy. Played up
your true form.
Played up this romance between the two of them. Let's just watch that because it's pretty badass.
Just casually talking.
Yeah, definitely showing his rising power through the years. And again, Xavier wheelchair. So there's a lot of back and forth going on here.
There's Peter Dinklage as Trask.
As Trask, the creator of the Sentinels,
Mm-hmm.
Who we're not seeing a lot of, but we know is certainly very pivotal in the story of this movie, and the fact that he creates the Sentinels in the 70s, and that we see by the future that they have really sort of taken over and made things horrible.
Oh, those are the ball bearings that we saw him break out of prison with in X2. It's sort of a signature move.
Yeah, they've said that this film will have a lot of callbacks to the early X-Men movies, and this is certainly a major one here, since X2 had that very cool crowd-pleasing moment involving that. And yes, the adoring masses welcoming the Mark I Sentinel.
Not
knowing.
I don't know. If I had seen a giant robot, I would not be like, yay. I'd be like, are you serious?
And yeah, so this is obviously the continuation of that big sequence of Mystique goes to the army barracks where Havoc is. Why does she need Havoc's help? What exactly is going on?
Breaking him out of the army? Was he enlisted or something?
I
don't know.
But that's more of that. And again, we should say that when we're seeing it cuts back and forth to the future stuff too, which it sounds like we will see throughout the movie. Yes, we'll see more of the 1970s, but that they will cut back and forth, much like the comic book did. And again, this could be Blink's death too. We don't know, but again, are we gonna see them dying like in the comic books? Kind of that similar thing. Oh, this is a pretty cool little money
Pride
power shot.
And Bishop there on the right, running through.
Yeah,
she's using her phasing powers.
Kitty using her abilities to
probably run from some Sentinels. There's a poor guy getting.
And this is looks like more of is earlier from what we saw, the Sentinel sort of drop ship. And here's the earlier part where they come out of these pods.
Yeah, it reminds me of Matrix Revolutions a lot, like their look and like the tentacles and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, this looks like it's more like we see a lot of stuff with the White House and a lot going on there. So that looks like with us, obviously there's all this sort of political rally stuff where they unveil the Sentinels. Here, though, this has got to be back where Magneto's being broken out. Where I'm assuming Quicksilver causes this to happen. That he's in his cell, and this is the freeing of Magneto.
Oh, and here we go. This looks like the start of like Colossus fighting the Sentinel, and then there in the back we have Sunspot like unloading.
Yeah, and
we flame.
You got Warpath holding his knife up there too, and that's probably Blink. So yeah, I'm guessing that this is stuff that maybe we're going to see, in the later. Again, maybe it's at the beginning, but it might be later in the movie as we're seeing what sounds like a pretty big battle in the future, and these concurrent sort of battles happening back and forth.
And here's Magneto with a bunch of Sentinels. Looks like he's controlling. And you got to wonder if he's a known threat. They know his powers. He can control metal. Why would you make a bunch of Sentinels out of metal?
And I defend this in that it's twofold. One, Magneto when this movie begins is locked up, and he's never getting out because supervillains never break out of where they're locked up. But more so, I'd say it's the 1970s. It's supposed to be that thing that they just don't have the technology to make it anything but metal. And I'm guessing we will see in the future Magneto can't stop the Sentinels. So this is going to
got like plastic Sentinels or something.
I'm guessing
non-metallic metal.
We will see the big difference with the fact that in the 70s that he can easily deal with these suckers. But
I'm going to say non-magnetic metals a second ago.
right.
Non-metallic metals.
Looks like Mystique pays a little visit to France. Mystique seems to have a lot of traveling in this movie.
Yeah, I heard someone was. I'm not sure. I think it was you who told me this. That this movie is sort of like the battle for Mystique's soul. Like she's the main player. It was almost like her idea, I think, in the comic book. To kill this notable political figure, we'll say.
Yeah.
But yeah, she seems to be going around the world, not taking people out.
Yeah. Or at least getting things she needs. Yeah.
Yes.
So it looks like the Blackbird, we assume, unless it's Sentinel dropship behind Storm here. And then here's Havoc's one and only moment in the trailer. But you know what? He's not doing the hula hoop motion.
Yeah, not anymore.
I know the actor is happy about that. It seems like Havoc's probably really only in this sequence, unless they're keeping things from us, that he's just kind of a small little portion of the movie for whatever reason Mystique needs to go there. Again, you can see Mystique. You can see the blue gal right there.
Guide us. Lead us.
I'm guessing that this is probably... might be the part where he goes to talk to the older Xavier. They have that sort of discussion that we see glimpses of, that maybe this is sort of the accessing. But whose hands are that?
I do not know. Look at those rings. Who's wearing rings?
Who's wearing those
Let's start
rings?
this thing over and figure it out now.
And we've had a couple shots of Beast. He's not in this trailer a lot, but...
Earlier in the trailer, he did not have the blue fur, and he was a human.
Yeah.
And it's the theory is, or what we sort of heard, is that it's sort of like a Hulk-like thing, to where he gets agitated and aggressive, that he turns back into the blue.
Yeah, I can't recall. He somehow managed to suppress being the physical blue beast he got transformed into in First Class, but that there is sort of a Hulk-type factor that if he gets agitated, he can't control it and shows his blue side.
And there's Blink, who has the power to make portals to teleport people. So it looks like she's using that here. It's got Colossus here in the back on the left, but in the next shot...
which is a shot we are...
Iceman.
Here, let's play this through, and then we'll go back, because... Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, no pun intended. That is the coolest thing I've ever seen. To see him making the ice slide, and that he actually looks... like awesome, solid Iceman is just is awesome.
It's very cool. We got the I'm saying the cool thing too, but we got the one glimpse of him iced up at the end of the X-Men 3 of the Last Stand. But here, obviously, it seems like he's much more sort of moved forward with his powers, and the ice slide, which we've never seen. I'll date myself as someone older than Joshua here, but as a kid who grew up watching Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, first exposure to Iceman being on that show, the ice slide was always awesome. So.
No, yeah. I watched that show too.
I saw it first run. Let's see. And then, more of a Sunspot definitely getting his Human Torch on. I mean, again, they kind of mix it because there is sort of that magma-esque thing going on there in his beam.
And here again, stadiums just have such a bad
in superhero movies.
Yeah,
Dark
Knight Rises. It's like
Superman Returns, the plane. It's just if you do a stadium, a superhero movie, bad things can happen. Here, this was guest directed this shot by Roland Emmerich. He just came in to destroy the White House. He's like, let me do that one. And now this is pretty cool here. This is Colossus one-on-one with Sentinel. And here you get an idea of their size, because Colossus is a big dude. So clearly they look, 7-8 feet tall, but they're not the towering giant Sentinels. But they're, clearly very effective at what they do. and taking him on right there. And then this is interesting because
he's pulling a destroyer from the Thor movie.
Yeah, he's definitely this we haven't seen in the comics. Although I guess you're kind of screwed because the Sentinels in the comics usually shoot blasts from their hands and their chest, and it's very Iron Man looking. So no matter what they did, it would kind of look like something another movie, a Marvel movie had done. It's like let's just do the destroyer thing and open up here. And then this big moment, the only sequence we've heard where they actually have face to face one of the original, the future and the past X-Men with the two Professor X here. And the last thing I'll mention is actually a credit block mention, which is Anna Paquin's name. So we've heard, even though they cut out that one sequence she was in, they might find a way to keep her in the movie.
Yeah, when they do reshoots
they might have
something,
added a scene with her.
in.
Yeah, so I think we might see her. All in all, though, lots to be excited here. Wouldn't you agree, Josh?
Yes, this is like a new movie seeing this footage. This looks great. I'm really excited.